So for the knife, service-wise, on a daily basis, just check how much play you have here in this area and also here on the keep. If there's too much play, you have got shims, etc. that you can remove or add to get you the right clearance between the knife and these two. The clearances are in the book. They are very small, so you need to keep an eye on them. A good knife is a good knife, as in you get a nice cut. Anything less than that, the knife will have to be replaced. The same goes for the fingers themselves. Any worn or broken fingers need to be replaced as soon as possible, because that will impede the flow of the crop through the machine. For the lifters themselves, we do fit lifters if you want. You don't have to, but we start from number 5 here and then every 4th one on from there. So for the lifters themselves, keep an eye on them. If they're not nice and tight, you need to make sure that tighten them up. If they are bent or maybe even broken, remove them as soon as possible, because the last thing we need is one of these ending up in the wrong place. Going on to the auger itself, we have 2 different types of retractable finger. So do make sure that you have your serial number to hand so that you get the correct one of the 2. So going with the older style, nut and bolt, so this goes for both of them. If one of them is bent or broken, remove them as soon as possible. To refit these, take off what is remains of the old one, but put the nut on first, put it in, screw it down, then screw it back 1 turn. Nip the nut up, then rotate the auger itself 1 revolution to make sure that this does not retract below the plastic. If it does, you need to then just slightly adjust this to make sure that it doesn't go below that plastic. For the new style is a quick release one. So inside there, we have this style here. Now what happens here, all you have to do to remove it is lift that out and it comes out. When you refit these, the groove on the back here must go towards the end here. When you fit them, it's just a case of popping it in, locking it back, and it's in. So to access that, we then need to go through that hole in here, and these holes here, we have a number of them so that you can replace those. Service-wise, we do have these auger extensions. We can add or subtract them if we need to. You can also add or subtract an extra finger depending on the flow of the crop on the day. For the reel and the tines, keep an eye on the bearings here and inspect those every day to make sure that they are okay and there's not too much play. For the tines themselves, make sure you haven't got any bent ones or broken ones. If they are bent or broken, replace them as soon as possible. So this will reduce the amount of crop that can get caught up on the reel itself. So service-wise, on this side of the cutter bar, we'll start down the bottom here. There is a little plate here. This plate can go in here, and this plate will then seal off the actual cutter bar so you don't have no grain loss or crop loss through this hole here. It is there for moisture, so when you park the machine up, it's an idea to remove that plate from there and make sure that the moisture can come out. So do make sure that's in place when you come to combine itself. Also, while we're on this side, a good idea is to keep an eye on any leaks, etc. from your hydraulics and damage to any electrics itself. If you do need to remove the cutter bar in the field, we do have these items here. And these items here, we use these to prop up the front of the cutter bar to make sure that we have the right angle so we can connect back up when we want to restart. So these go in here, there, and the spring then latches onto the knife bolts underneath. While we're on this side, we might as well go onto the reel itself. So same idea here, keep an eye out for any leaks, etc. and or breaks. Underneath here, it's one thing that does get missed out quite often is the tension of the chain and also the lubrication of the chain itself. So keep an eye on that. Lubricate it when is required and use the correct chain lubricant. So the adjustment here is just simply here. You need to loosen up the 2 bolts and then jack it tight or loose with depending on what you need to do there. For this side of the reel, underneath here there is also the grease nipple for the actual reel itself. There's the exact same thing on the opposite side of the reel itself. Checking underneath here on a daily basis for any material buildup. If you do get material buildup, remove it as quickly as you can. The other one, if you do have mud and stuff collecting under here, do be aware that a lot of mud is going to detract from the amount of movement that you get. That will have to be removed with a bit of water. If you do wash it off, make sure it is dry if you are going to store it again. The other thing to be aware of is there is an adjustment here that you can make, and that is just before the play. This setting also is in the book itself, so keep an eye on that one. The other one here is the skid itself. They do wear. Obviously, if it's wearing too much because you're cutting close to the ground, you can adjust them up and down, but if this is worn out, you do replace them because this is your stop when the cutter bar gets to the ground. On the rear of the cutter bar, we have the hydraulic tank, and this is for the side knife drive. If you're going to check oil in here, please make sure that the actual cutter bar is level before you do it, and it's just a simple case of unscrewing the cap and checking the oil level on the dipstick itself. There is also, down the back here, there is another grease behind here. This is just the drive shaft itself. It's only 250 hours. And then we can go across to the other side, to the other end of the Auger. Grease here for the UJs. Also there's a clutch in here, which is the protection for the whole of the cutter bar itself. That again is 250 hours, so not very often, but still don't forget to grease it. The same goes for this end of the drive shaft. You do have the grease nipples this side, for the UJs this side.